what is backlog. Now, if you see, we have created so many user stories, right? If you go to backlogs here, right, these are the tasks which we have already assigned to sprint 1, sprint 2, the combination of these two. Now, if you go to backlog, these are the two user stories which are not yet assigned to any of these sprints, right? Is it clear? So I'll create new sprint, which is sprint 3 example. Sprint 3. Okay. Create it. What happened? Something wrong. So now we have two user stories. I will put these two into this thing. If you see here, as soon as these tasks are assigned to one of the sprint, the backlogs have become empty, right? So that is the meaning of backlogs. Clear? Now if you go to task board, so you have no work schedule yet. Why? Something wrong. Project boards and go to sprints. So we don't have anything in backlogs. We have everything in the sprints. Now, which is very important is capacity planning. What is this capacity planning? Let's say you have a team of 5 members or 4 members, right? Now, each person is going to contribute maybe certain time. Maybe so few people will contribute 8 hours, few people will contribute 4 hours, few may contribute 12 hours. Depends, right? So that way, what we'll do, we'll see capacity planning, right? Now he can add users here, whoever is going to be here. Add all team members, or if you want to add only specific. So for which sprint you are going to create a capacity planning, here you can select. I would like to have sprint 2. Okay. For sprint 2, I'm adding a couple of developers. Let's say who is the user, 2-3 users we created. This guy is one user. Okay. If you want, you can add more developers here. Or if everybody is participating in the team, you can add all the team members. Or copy from the last sprint. These are the options which you have. Assume this particular developer is going to work for 8 hours. Even this guy works for 8 hours. I'm not bothered about the activity and number of days of right now. Okay. Just save this. So this is the task of the leads, right? And this sprint is from July 19 to July 25. So 5 working days, right? Clear? Now, so basically this is the 5 working days. The sprint, we have planned it for 5. So 8 hours into 5, 40 hours, 40 hours together, right? Total, we have 80 working hours for this capacity. I click here, click on work details. Here, you can see here, 0 of 80 hours is total. Now, let's say this guy is going to work only for 6 hours. See here, 70 hours. Immediately it has reflected. Clear? I'll put it back to 8. You are not seeing any progress here, right? So why? That is because, save this. Now go to task board. Now tasks are already assigned, but nothing is showing here, right? Show the work details here. Instead of planning, go to work details. Okay. Now what we'll do, for this particular task, the effort is required to complete this task is maybe 21 hours. Okay, just 7 crores. Maybe this task requires what, 12 hours. This is already closed. Maybe that is the reason. Some problem is there with the refresh. Ideally, as soon as you give here, automatically it should go and reflect here. Let me add one more task here. Okay. We'll just give me a sec. I'll just change this sprint 3. Add user and Charan, right? Charan also add user. And this guy is going to work for 8 hours. This guy is going to work 8 hours. Okay. Save this. Now come back here. Change this. Effort required is maybe 12 hours. Just save and close. Some issue, it's not showing. Ideally, what it will do, it will reflect here as soon as you assign the number of hours. Effort required 20 hours. We allocated correctly. User story task. We have 2 and 3. This is correct. What is happening? Add it. Okay. Just give me a sec. Some issue is there. Oh, okay. Got it. Why it is? See, this is the problem. I did not see this. It is not yet assigned. What we have done in capacity planning, we have just assigned to the respective users. We have just added. But did we assign these tasks to the users? No. Let me add. This is for Charan. And this is assigned to, oops, 7 close. Charan. Okay. I'm sure today. I'm not sure why this. Okay, I'll come back to this. Some issues there, not refreshing for some reason. I'm not sure. So ideally, this is how we'll plan. Let's say this guy is working for 8 hours and he's like actually working for all the days. Okay. And he can be a part of some specific team. Maybe he is part of deployment team. This guy is part of maybe design team or development team. Okay. So particular people, whoever is part of the respective teams, they can be contributing to respective sprints. So when they are doing this, so like this, you can enter the details, how many hours they are going to work, all the information. Once you add that, then when you come back to task board, it will display here. You can switch between the sprints here, sprint one, whichever it is. Okay, like this. I've already given. Why it is not giving? I'm not sure. I'll check this, why it is not refreshing. Ideally, how it will show. It will show like this. A planning, basically. So how many hours are left, all the information will show this. Like this. Okay. So each work item. So out of 170 hours, 156 hours already completed or whatever assigned, and how many hours are not assigned. And in case of red color, let's say this guy, particular guy, assume, if we see here in capacity, this guy is working for 8 hours. What is the sprint time? 5 days, 40 hours. In case if the task is going to take more than that, if it take, this is 21 hours, and this task is going to take another 22 hours, example, another 20 hours. So 20 plus 21 is 41 hours. But what is the capacity of this guy? Only 40 hours. In that case, it will show red color saying that this guy has more work. So that is the indication to assign or reduce the work from him and give it to the some other user. Or maybe add more users here for the capacity planning. Let's say one more guy I will add here, Charan. So I can assign whatever that excess hours this particular user has, that work I can assign to another user, right? Maybe this guy can work 4 hours. Now if you go to taskbar, maybe one more, any sprint you take, sure. Maybe this one, sure. So I'll increase this. Maybe I'll assign to the new user. So this is how the capacity planning will be done. Okay. This refresh is not happening. I don't know. I'll check and show you. This should come automatically as soon as you assign this something here. Okay. I'll check that why it is not coming. Or maybe just give me a sec. If I have some sprints, I will show you here. Nothing. I don't have any sprints here. Okay, not an issue. That's all. Nothing much here. Okay, and it is not the major work of a DevOps engineer also. Just for knowledge purpose, I'm giving how actually the flow and how people will work in real time. No, nothing is there. I'll show you maybe tomorrow why it is not. Okay. So this is how it looks like. Clear? Any doubt? Okay. So next with this, I'll complete the boards. Next, we'll start the important topic of repos, right? Right. Okay. These are the major things. Query part and all, I think I showed you already. How to save the queries, all those things. We are in the wrong project. If you go to new project, which is our project, which we have done, under the boards, queries already I have displayed, right? My future list, this is what we are. I'll again connect this particular part to our pipelines once we stop. Okay. So now question to you. How many of you know what is repository or what is version control system and how the developers or the entire ecosystem will work? Anyone? Let me explain. Assume if you take any project, right, there will be multiple developers, correct? This guy is developer 1, is developer 2, is developer 3, is developer 4. Multiple people, you can say. Okay. Developer 1. Okay. This guy, developer 2. This guy is developer 3. This guy is developer 4. Okay. Now, I think in demo class, I already told you what is repository. There will be a repository, something called repository, right? Let me use different color for this repository, right? So now, assume is the developer 1, okay? He has so many files in his local, right? Let's say a file called hello.java. I'm just giving an example, okay? So assume this guy has modified something here. Now that has to be shared with these other developers. And he cannot keep on adding underscore date 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 like that, right? So somewhere he has to save that other than his local. And there should be some common place where he can save his changes to other developers. Because assume these two developers are working in different region. So I cannot sit and work 24 hours, right? Now, the file, whatever has been modified by developer 1, I need to save or share or secure multiple things has to be happen for this file. What I should do? I should do something called first, right? I should create a connection between these two, my repository and my local. There is a command called, okay, if I use a command called git clone, if I do, these are the 4 or 5 commands which every day in day-to-day activities people will use it. Okay. When you use the git clone by giving the repository URL, there will be a URL. I'll show you practically, don't worry. First, let us try to understand the part. Okay. Immediately, if you do this git clone, after giving your credential, all those things, whatever the content is available in the repository, that will come and sit in his local. I'm trying to indicate the same color because it is a replica of this, right? What will be there here? The complete project information. This is repository, you can say, okay? A repository. So please remember these commands. We are going to use for next couple of sessions, these commands, okay? So git clone is the command to clone, to copy the source from your central repository to your local. So once you use the git clone, this will become the central repository or remote repository. Here, automatically a local repository will be created here. Okay. Now, because I have modified a file called hello.java, as I'm the developer 1, I need to save this. So what is the command I need to use for that? There is a command called first. I need to stage the changes. In terms of Git terminology, I'll tell it is staging. For that, we need to use a command called git add. So what does git add do? So git add actually what it does, from your local system, assume this is your local system, the black color one. In your local system, when you use the git clone option, a local repository has been created. Now, from your local system to move it to the staging area, you need to use a command called git add. Okay. If you use the git add, then it will be added to the staging area. That doesn't mean it is saved to your local repository. To save into your local repository, you need to use a command called git commit. When you do the git commit, then only the local changes will go and save into the local repository. Okay. Is this enough having your local repository? No, definitely it is not enough. So for this, again, to save the changes or to copy all the changes, whatever has been committed into your local repository has to be pushed into the remote repository. For that, you need to use a command called git push. Okay. So this is the command which you need to use. Once you do the git push, the local repository changes will go and save in remote repository. This is remote repository. Okay. Now, the file, now once you do the git push, what happens here? This hello.java, the same red color. Hello.java will come and sit here. Okay. Now, as a developer too, if I want to take the source from here, what I should do? Which command I should use? Same scenario. So you should use the git. What command I should use? If I use the git clone command, then automatically this repository will come and sit here as a developer too. Now, again, same story. This guy will modify. Assume, for just for understanding purpose, I am trying to use the same file name, hello.java. Okay. For this, he has modified maybe hello.class, you can say. Okay. Now, this guy has to move again the hello.class, whatever it is, file to remote repository. Can anyone tell me what are the steps now? Same thing here, what we have done here. First thing, developer 2 has to stage the changes. Okay. For this, what is the command? Git add to save the changes, to stage the changes. Then to save the changes, which command you should use? Git commit. Okay. Once he does the git commit, the changes hello.class will come and sit here. Now this guy has to change this, save these changes to central repository. Then what you should do? You should be doing same. Which command? Git push. After doing the git push, the hello.class will come and sit here. Okay. Now I think you should speak. Now tell me the story, same thing. Now this guy developer 3. Okay, fine. Durga Prasad sent, he understood. Over Vijaya. This is the day-to-day activity of developer or the configuration management or the
Uh,
DevOps engineer.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, sir. So I have a doubt here.
Yes.
So when we are cloning the remote repository to the local repository,
Mhm.
why do we need to use the commands and all like git add and git commit? So as when you have explained for the developer one, as per my understanding, what I understood is even if we save code changes on the local repository, that should eventually reflect in the remote repository, right? That is what I understood by git clone.
No, 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 no. Git clone is to take from remote repository to your local. This is
Okay,
this is from here to here.
okay,
Git clone. Okay.
okay,
When you want to move or push your changes or save your changes, hello.java is modified where? Locally by developer
local.
one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now I want to save these changes or I want to push these changes to
Okay,
remote repository. That's when you will use a command push to here.
okay. So these are all one way, right?
Yes, git push is always from your local to remote repository. Git clone is from your remote to local.
Okay, understood, understood. Thank you, sir.
So now, same thing with the developer 3. If he wants to take the source code from a remote repository to local, he has to use git clone command. Then once he does that, then automatically the local repository will get created with the central repository, which will be in sync. The local metadata will be there. I'll show you that. Don't worry. Okay. Now assume this guy again some function he will write, right? Then he has to push his changes to remote repository. Okay. Maybe some abc.java has modified or he has created new file. So now first thing what he has to do, there will be three things. Let me show you that. I'll show you the document. Sec. Just give me a sec. Okay. So we're going to cover many in this session. Repos and Git basically, right? So how does a local repository looks like? Please see this picture. Okay. So there will be a remote repository and there will be a local repository. Whatever work we are doing here, example. So here, whatever I'm explaining this writing, hello.java or hello.class or abc.java, that will be done here in working directory. From the working directory, to move it to the staging area, I need to use a command called git add, right? Once I add, it will go and save and sit into the staging area, the changes which I have made locally. Now, to save those changes into the local repository, if you just add it to the staging area, that will not be considered as a version controlling. Okay. The versions will not get added for that. As part of commit only, the new version will get attached to the changes. Then that will be saved into the local metadata. Okay. See, once you commit into the changes into your local repository, that will be sitting in your local repository only. It will not be visible for this guy. Now, now let's say hello.class until unless he pull the changes. And remember, git clone, you need to use only first time. Next time, assume this guy has already done the git clone before this guy commits his hello.class file. Okay. Now he wants to take only the changes of git clone. He has already done it. Assume. Okay. Now this guy has pushed now. Okay. This local repository already there. Git clone is already done. Now this guy has modified and moved his changes to remote repository. Now, if you want to take these changes, I don't need to use the git clone again. Git pull, there is one more command called git pull. It will just pull the sources. It will not create entire repository. It will just pull the changes, the delta part, whatever has been pushed. What git pull does, it will copy complete thing. Whereas if you want to copy only the delta changes day to day, assume you started project today. Today we have to do the git clone because it is a new project. After a week, maybe there will be so many developers, they will be committed their changes to say remote repository. Again, you no need to repeat the git clone. Just pull the sources. When you use the git pull command, it will pull the delta part or the changes what has been made from the point when you have done the git clone. Okay, that's when you should use the git pull. Again, if you want to push these changes, use the same thing, whatever it is. Git add, then git commit. Once you do these two, then immediately the changes will go and sit in your remote repository. Okay. What is the command? Git push, to push the changes into remote repository. Clear? Same story with the developer. It goes on like this every day. Any doubt? Okay. Hope it is clear. Okay. Good. What we will do, so now let us create a repository or what we just for understanding. I'll pull the document just in a sec. Okay. Just so what are we going to cover in this next topic? Azure repos and Git repos we have boards we have already covered. Now in this session we are going to cover the Git repos. Git repos. So basically how version control system works we have seen, and what are the what basic commands. Like important thing here is the branching policy, all those things. Okay. Git. There are two types of version control systems. Okay. Distributed version control system and VSTS. Now we will be talking about distributed version control system, right? So what is distributed version control system, which you need to understand here? See, basically what happened, there are other version control systems like SVM. These are client server architecture. Okay, client and server. What is the difference? What is the difference between distributed version control system and client server version control systems? If we see here, assume developer 1, developer 2, developer 3, developer 4 are there. Okay. Now, assume this guy does every day 10 check-ins, 10 commits. Commit 1, commit 2, commit 3, commit 4. Now, where is he doing his commits? Is he doing commits in local repository? This entire thing is local, right? This is local, whatever is happening. This is remote. This is remote, right? This is local, this is remote. Now, where is he doing? This is remote or central repo, you can say. Now, the commit wherever is happening, which is local. Yes, perfect. So, now, am I doing all my, let's say, take here. Developer 1, every day he does 10 commits, right? Now, developer 2, assume he does 20 commits. I'll come back. Developer 3, we're talking about 3 developers, I'll mention, maybe 15 commits. Now tell me, though he has done the 10 commits, all are in local, right? Now, how many pushes are required here to save the changes into remote repository? Do we really need 20 pushes? 1, exactly. So now what happens, even if you have so many commits, this guy can go and push in 1 or 2 commits, maybe 2 commits, sorry, 2 pushes, right? Maybe this guy, maybe 3 push, assume. Maybe due to the dependency, people are waiting or whatever the reason, he may be doing. Maybe this guy does the one-time push. Now, tell me, if you have only client and server architecture, there is no local repository concept in client server architecture. Okay, the commit itself is saving all the changes into your remote repository. Now, when you are doing 10 commits, 20 commits, 15 commits, right? Altogether, how many? 45, right? Total 45 times we are going and giving the load to server. Whereas here that 45 has become only 6. That means what we are trying to do here is we are distributing here, right? The load of work we are distributing to developer 1 because this 10 commits happened in developer 1 system. Another 20 commits happened here in developer 2 system. Another 15 commits happened in developer 3 system. So the distribution happened here. That is the reason we call it as distributed version control system. The load is getting distributed, and altogether we are just pushing only one or two times. Most of the time, one time they'll get, because they have to create something called pull request, right? PRs. So with the PRs, things will get merged into the central repository. Okay. So that is the difference between client server architecture and distributed version control system. This is distributed version control system. Git and GitHub is distributed version control system. Okay. Clear? Any doubt on the version control part? Is the document. Another advantage of doing this is a proper auditing will happen. Auditing here, whatever it is, as soon as you do git commit, for every git commit, there is something called SHA ID. Okay. That SHA ID will be added. So what are the commands we have seen? First thing is git flow, right? Right. And what is the next one? Git add. Next, git. What is the other commands which you used? Commit. What are the other commands? These are very important because these are the commands which you are going to use for next couple of sessions. And this is the day-to-day activity of any DevOps engineer, any developer, right? Git clone, git pull also, right? The important is git log. To see what is happening, you can use the git log. Just to make life easier, I will do one thing. I'll show you practically. This is my this is my where is that? Where did I create it? So once you actually do the repository, maybe assume I will take, let me do one thing. Okay. CD to, okay. Now we will create repo 4. Okay. CD to repo 4. Okay. If we see here, there is nothing. Nothing is there. I can see here. Now I want my Git has to be initiated. So what is the command? First, to initialize Git, if it is an empty repository, git init is the command. Initialized empty Git repository in so on so. You see here, .git folder is created. What is there in .git folder? There are hooks, there is info, there is object, there is refs. This is where the metadata will be. Okay, right now nothing is there. So that's the reason it is not showing anything. Okay. Example. Okay. It is saying on branch master, nothing to commit. That is not my requirement, what I want to show you here. If you see here, if I use the git log, okay, it will display complete history. This is the commit. See, for every commit, there is something called SHA ID. This we call it as SHA ID. Okay. This SHA ID is the unique for every commit. Okay. And who is the author? Developer one, right? And when was it modified? So and so date. And what is that? And what is the reason? Commit, basically, right? File one, file two, something. I'll show you practically this scenario. Don't worry. Okay, we'll do that because if I start now, it may not work. So that's why I'm showing few other commands. Okay. So like this, for every commit, there will be a unique ID which will get attached to this. If we use the command called git log, it will display complete history of that. Okay. This is what I was trying to say, git log. Okay. Let us discuss few points and we'll start the practical session from tomorrow. As I told you, there are two types of version control system. One is centralized version control system, another one is distributed version control system. we'll be talking about this distributed version control system. Okay. Now, when do you want to use here? Only two things, as I discussed already: working copy and repository. Whatever you commit, you do, that will automatically go and sit into the server. Here it is not like the case. First, it will go and sit into the local repository. Then, using the push and pull commands, that data transfer will happen here, there. Here, git add and git commit. This is the two commands which will be copied, right? There is no difference here. When you use the git clone, the exact copy, whatever is available in the remote repository, will come and sit here. So when to use what are the advantages, strengths, and best used for? So when you use centralized versus version control system, so it is easily safe. So assume you have a very large project. Your data project size is very huge. Then it is better to go with the centralized, because what happens, GBs of data will come and sit for every developer, which may not be required, right? Okay. In that case, it is recommended to use the centralized option. Is recommended. When you have source code is, basically when your code base is too large, then it is recommended, right? And granular permission control. These permissions can be controlled at very granular level, right? And permits monitoring of usage. Of course, here also is there, right? And what is this large integrated code bases? And the very advantage with this distributed version control system is the merging mechanism, and the overhead for the DevOps engineers will be less, because the developers will most of the time will manage their things in their local itself. By the time it comes to the remote repository, it will be very, through pull request, that things will come from developer repository to developer branches, basically, right, to remote repository. Okay. Any doubt? So what is Git repository? A Git repository is just a folder, basically. If you duplicate that example, whatever we created here, right? See how many repos I have. You see here, repo 1, repo 2, repo 3, repo 4. I have so many repos in my local, right? Multiple folders, basically. So a Git repository is just a folder, right? And each Git repo on your system is an independent. If you see here, whatever repository I have a separate Git, the metadata, whatever the configuration, everything is specific to my repository one only. If I go to repo 2, I have another .git, which is maintained here. Okay. And Git repo contains every version of every file saved in the repo. Because the moment you save, right? Let's say, if you take the same example, here, I have modified here, and I was telling developer 1 does the 10 commits, commit 1, commit 2, commit 3. So between these commits, do you think in commit 1, let's say the size of this is 10 MB, okay? 10 MB, okay, the source. Now for 10 commits, what is the size of this code together for 10 commits? Any idea? What will be the size if you use the 10 commits? Because assume your the source code or folder size is 10 MB. You have done the 10 commits. So what will be the size for 10 commits? 20 MB. How about Vijaya? See, what is the advantage? Even if you are doing 10 commits, exactly 10 MB with minimal thing. That the first commit assume 10 MB is there. So second commit, the Git will remember what is modified, what was the previous commit, complete information. So what it does in Git commit 2, assume you have modified only one line between your previous commit and current commit. It will just attach only that one line, which is minimum bytes, right? That's how the size may not vary too much between your commits until and unless if you are adding additional files. Okay. So for every commit, whatever the delta part has been modified, only that will be attached. So that is the another advantage of this. That is what I'm trying to say here. That uses a lot of disk space, right? So this is just a representation for what we discussed, right? And benefits of Git development will happen with locally. Assume here, once I done the cloning, I no need to connect to the internet also because it is my local repository. I can do anytime. Internet is also not required. Okay, that is the advantage. Faster release because branches allow simultaneous development, and it is strong community support because there are a lot of open source people are supporting, and built-in integrations in many IDEs. There are Git plugins. Assume if you are using Visual Studio Code, then there is a Git plugin, right? For many IDEs, the inbuilt plugins are there. From your editor itself, you can commit, right? And there are beautiful branching policies, right? I'll talk about that branching strategy and all, right? Here we're going to have multiple branches, all the information, master branch, then developer branch, or future branch, release branch, or hotfix branch. There are many things, right? Based on the project requirement, based on the scenario, we may have to decide the branching, which branch to use. Okay. Objections, I know that is fine, right? Then what is GitHub? The GUI part, the web interface is nothing but GitHub. Okay, that's what. Okay, and few examples of Git and GitHub mentioned here, which is okay. We will start this getting started with the Git commands practically in next session tomorrow. Okay, we'll replicate this environment. We'll start committing. We'll modify changes. We'll do the merges. We'll resolve the conflicts. Many things we'll do. Okay, we'll create branches and what are the different branching strategies, what are the different types of merges. So many things are there to discuss. We'll start from tomorrow's session, the practical session. Okay. If you have any doubts, I'll take it up. Otherwise, see you next session. Okay. Then see you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.